Hey, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Black Inferno, and welcome to my Scorch in-depth tutorial video. Now, today, as the title suggests, we're going to be going over Scorch and everything that he does, so let's hop right into it. So starting off, we're going to be going over Scorch's abilities. Now, Scorch's defensive ability is called Thermal Shield. What Thermal Shield does is it deploys a vortex-like shield in front of Scorch, which melts incoming fire and damages any enemies close enough to the shield. Scorch's next ability is called Incendiary Trap. Now, Incendiary Trap holds up to 2 incendiary traps, which, when deployed, if they are ignited by a flame source from Scorch or another enemy Scorch, they ignite and deal damage to enemy titans. Now, the incendiary trap's damage is stackable, so that means if you have 2 traps overlapping each other, they deal double damage. Now going into Scorch's final ability, we've got Firewall. Firewall deploys a straight line firewall in front of Scorch, which deals damage to enemy titans that are standing in its path. Now Scorch's core is called Flame Core. Now what Flame Core does is Scorch pounds the ground in front of him with both fists, and a wall of fire emanates from Scorch, dealing damage to all enemy titans in his path. It does substantially more than any other Scorch's abilities, and something to note about this ability is that its damage carries over into the Doom state. Now what this means is that instead of having to doom the titan and then either execute or deal additional damage, it just goes down, the titan will just go down in one fell swoop. This is extremely effective considering that this is an ability like no other. There is no other ability that, even if you deal 1,000 points of damage when the enemy titan only has 1 health left, they will still go to full health in the Doom state. Like I said, this is extremely beneficial for dealing with multiple titans that are in a single corridor. Now we're going to briefly go over Scorch's primary weapon. His primary weapon is called the Thermite Launcher, which is a single round grenade launcher which deploys splash thermite, which deal damage over time if enemies stand in it, similar to his thermite traps. Now this is generally used more of a ignition tool as it is a source of damage. It definitely can be used as a damage source, however many of Scorch's abilities are better suited for the job. So generally you're going to be relying on the abilities of Scorch rather than his primary weapon, which is a bit different than all of the other titans. So try to rely more on your abilities than you do his primary weapon, seeing as it has such a long reload time, as well as the damage that is dealt by it is not that great. So next up we're going to be talking about Scorch in particular as a titan and how he fits into the battlefield. Scorch is obviously a bulky frame titan focused on health and close quarters combat. He's got slow mobility, however, like I said, his health is what makes up for that. Scorch excels at close quarters combat and locking down lanes for your teammates, where it prevents them from engaging from places in which they don't want to be flanked from. Like I said, Scorch excels at close quarters combat, and being able to pair his abilities together will make you an effective fighting force on the battlefield. So one of the main strategies when playing as a Scorch is to use the Titan kit Inferno Shield and to get up close and deal damage with your Thermal Shield. Now this may sound kind of risky, but it is extremely effective, and I'll explain why. So what ends up happening is if you get up close to an enemy titan and use your Thermal Shield, the benefits are that they cannot shoot you, and they also generally do not have the ability to run away. So as you're using your Thermal Shield, it is dealing damage, and if you have the Inferno Shield kit on your Scorch, it deals a substantial amount of damage. A full Thermal Shield will be able to completely kill a Ronin or a North Star Titan, and I believe will doom a Ion or a Tone Titan. Now when going up against a Legion or a Scorch, Legion is probably the best Titan to use this method against, seeing as his only method of defeating you is to fire his primary weapon at you. Now, something I do want to note real quick is that if Legion is using his Smart Core ability, it will deplete your shield, so be careful when going up against an enemy Legion with his Smart Core activated. You'll know that his Smart Core is activated by the Legion saying the phrase Smart Core activated, as well as him glowing red. So get up close to a Legion and use your Thermal Shield with Inferno Shield equipped, and you will defeat that Titan easily while gaining your core as well. Now, going up against the Scorch, this method is very dangerous, seeing as he can do the same thing to you, and eventually it will become an even draw damage-wise, and you could potentially lose after that. So in a Scorch on Scorch fight, you generally want to be a bit more passive, playing your corners and trying to deal as much damage to him as you can until your teammates can arrive, or until you feel confident enough to engage him. Now, here's going to be a damage comparison between using Inferno Shield and not using Inferno Shield. Now, the enemy Titan is using Inferno Shield and I am not, and as you can see, he has done substantially more damage to me than I did to him. Now, next up we're going to be going into the weaknesses of Scorch. Now, as previously mentioned, Scorch is a mobility lacking Titan who struggles with getting in close in wide open areas. So best to use Scorch in enclosed maps that are easy to approach Titans fairly quickly without them seeing you and being able to react. Another downside of Scorch is the fact that many of his abilities, once used, are placed there and cannot be adjusted unless the enemy goes back into them. So what this means is that you need to be strategic in the placement of your abilities and your weapons to make sure you get the most effective use out of them. So generally you're going to want to place them in areas in which the Titan either you don't want them to go or will more than likely go to escape. So using your incendiary traps behind an enemy rather than in front of the enemy is generally the best use, seeing as if you walk through your incendiary traps you will deal damage to yourself as well. Now, dealing with issues to mobility, another thing you need to be careful of is going up against an enemy Ronin. Ronin's Arc Wave has the ability to negate your dashes, and it prevents you from dashing quickly. One thing that Scorch does have going for him is the fact that he can get a dash with the use of the extra dash kit. So what ends up happening is if you use your Thermal Shield and you still have your dash available, even if they do dash away, you are still able to use that dash to engage you. So be careful when using your dash if you're going up against a Ronin, because his Arc Wave can get you into positions in which you don't want to be in. Now, another thing is that something else to note is that when using your Thermal Shield, you will be able to absorb any incoming fire as long as the shield is still active and has not run out, with the exception of core abilities. Core abilities will drain your Thermal Shield much faster than they normally would, even if you are using Inferno Shield. Now, a few quick things before we start wrapping up this video. One thing to note is that if you are holding up your Thermal Shield, you can still use your incendiary traps. So pair these two abilities together to ensure that you don't get damaged from incoming fire while you're deploying your traps, and then you can either use your firewall or your primary weapon to ignite it. Now, another thing to note is that it seems as though firewall, when used from a surface above to a surface below, it still seems to go and apply on the ground below it. Now, wrapping up this video, I'm going to have some final thoughts for you guys. I don't really quite fit into any particular category of the video, which is why I'm leaving them for the end here. So first off, I wanted to say that I generally categorize Titans based on their ability in 1v1s and their ability in team fights, as well as against skilled players and general public players. So one thing that you're going to want to note about Scorch is his effectiveness against in Titans battles on a 1v1 scale, is that he generally doesn't do as well, especially if the players know what they're doing, because the only thing that you need to do is basically just stay mobile and stay away from Scorch. So keep that in mind if you know that you're going up against a good player, as they will generally have the knowledge to take down a Scorch with ease. Another thing to note is that Scorch's effectiveness generally relies on the crowdedness of the battlefield, so dealing with like an FPS lobby of 5v5 is perfect for Scorch, especially in, like I said, close quarters maps. So try to use him on those types of maps. The one map I would not suggest using him on is Homestead. Homestead is a long range map that, like I said, will not suit Scorch's playstyle. So that's a general rule of thumb, and especially if you're going up against a good team of players, they will be able to outwit you generally for the most part. Now, one time that Scorch is useful in 1v1 situations is that if you do know that the enemy Titan is very aggressive and he, say off of respawn, will try to go after batteries. I play a lot of game battle 1v1s, and so one strategy that I do like to utilize is if I notice that they are being fairly aggressive early game, later in the rounds I will switch to Scorch and try to prevent him from realizing that I have gone Scorch until we are face to face, and then I can begin the round from there. Generally this becomes a win for me, seeing as they are already up close and personal and they don't really have a way to escape. Now, as a final summary for Scorch, basically he wants to be utilized as an area control Titan who's able to lock down lanes and prevent enemies from engaging. Use him extremely effectively in close quarters combat, being able to wipe out multiple Titans simultaneously while having the health and the bulk to absorb a lot of incoming fire. So if you are able to play Scorch strategic, he's an extremely beneficial Titan to use, as long as you know what you're doing. Never be afraid to get up close and personal with a Titan, as that is Scorch's forte and is what Scorch is best at. So I often see Scorches playing a more passive role, and that is generally not what you want to be. You want to be at the forefront of the fight, getting and engaging in fights and allowing your teammates to engage when they need to. So just keep that in mind as you play Scorch and you should be fine. So I got a clip here for you guys, and I just want to briefly go over what's going on here. So I'm engaging in a team fight. It is a 2v5. I popped the incendiary trap over there. I'm continuing to get hit markers, so therefore I'm continuing to use it. I use my flame core, deal damage to Legion, and enemy pilot has ejected. I finish up the Legion with my thermite launcher, and I melee the final pilot. Now, this is generally an ideal situation for Scorch. Several low health Titans, and I just kind of wanted to show you guys how a battle will end up turning out. You see me trying to be strategic with my incendiary traps, because going all out with your incendiary traps when it's not as beneficial as it can be is very detrimental, because then you're left with basically ability down and not able to do anything. A final wrap-up thought, I would like to say thank you to Eurynome Stolas, excuse me. Hopefully I got his name right. Stolas is a friend of mine who has a YouTube channel, which his link will be in the description for sure. He's the one who I've got all this footage from, or the footage, like with the one-on-one footage, at least. All the background gameplay footage you see is from me. But like I said, I just want to give a shout out to him, say thank you for that. And also that my Twitter will be down in the description below. So if you guys wish to know more information about the ongoings of Black Inferno, be sure to follow that. I play quite a bit, and I'm trying to upload more regularly. Unfortunately, I have not uploaded recently due to the holidays and me being sick. So if you guys enjoyed this content, please subscribe. I will be doing more videos like this. Please let me know in the comment section below which Titan you would like me to do an in-depth on. I've done an in-depth on Legion already, and I've done one on Scorch, as you just saw in here. I'm thinking of probably doing a Ronin in-depth, seeing I'm generally pulled more towards the Titans that people don't want to, or don't quite know how to play, or is more of a niche Titan, just to, like I said, help you guys out a bit more. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and have a great day.